Hi learners, Frosty the LLN guy here. Today we're going to look at writing a very basic, straightforward essay. There'll be 3 videos and this one is going to focus on the planning coming up. So here we go, writing a nice basic essay. Let's start with the planning. So we're going to look at Ron Richard's generate, sort, connect, elaborate routine. Now I want you to divide your page up like I have here with a circle in the middle, line on either side. Now we put here the essay question that we're going to be answering, which is governments should do more to support healthy eating. Now, of course, this is one of those essay questions that don't have an actual question in it. It's just a statement and we need to reply to that statement, okay? So we start with the essay question sitting in the middle there. Now, on this section here, this is the generate part. And this is where you really don't have any wrong answers. You just straight say all the things that have something to do with this question. So I'm going to start with some of that stuff. How about the ads focused on children when it comes to unhealthy eating? We could talk about the easy access to fast food today. We could talk about the role of education, how some countries have what we call a sugar tax. I won't go into detail as to which countries actually have that at the moment. That's probably too in-depth for this sort of an essay, but it's always good to have a little bit of that background knowledge before you start. Let's talk about making healthy food cheaper. We'll also talk about school programs and the things that schools could be doing in order to assist this. We could also talk a little bit about kitchen gardens, how people are growing food in their own backyards, which increases the health of the entire nation. Let's talk about exercise as well. And how about something on the impacts of unhealthy eating? And in that I'm going to write diabetes, obesity, cancer. And we could go on and on with that one, but we'll leave it at that. And let's also talk about accessing support from doctors and GPs, that sort of thing. Okay, so we have a pretty good list now. So what we're going to do is the next step, which is sort. Now, when we sort things, what we do is we find out where they sit in relation to our essay question. The closer to the essay question, the more important you think they are. So let's start that process now. We'll put some little circles out. Now the ads to children I think are probably pretty important, so I'm going to put that right here. Easy access to fast food is probably not as important in my opinion. Education I think is very, very important. Surprise. Now, sugar tax could be a really good alternative to what we've currently got, so I'm going to put that somewhere in the middle here. Now, healthy food being cheaper would be a really good government initiative, another good suggestion for the government. Let's put it right here. School programs very much related to education, so I'm going to put that close by. Kitchen gardens probably aren't as important as some of the other stuff, so I'm going to put that a little bit further away. Exercise has less to do with healthy eating. It's more like a healthy lifestyle. So that's kind of like a supporting information. So I'm going to put that a little bit further away. Not to say that exercise isn't important, but our essay question talks about healthy eating, not exercise. Now, the impacts of unhealthy eating are going to be really important. And rather than listing the whole things here, since I have them on the side, I'm just going to write impacts. And the last one is accessing support from doctors. Now, very similar to education in my head, I'm going to put it up here. Okay, now the sort part is done. The next thing we need to do is connect. Now, in the connect, we draw lines from some of these circled parts to either the center or other circles, and then we write on the line what the link actually is. So, for instance, I might start with education, and I might write next to education, it is important that people know what is in fast food. And I think another thing that we could do here is link education to impacts. So if I do a big long line coming all the way down there and just write on that line, people need to be aware of the impacts of unhealthy eating. And we can talk about school programs. Now that link can go just straight to the center here. And I'm going to write, beginning at a young age, can start healthy habits early. All right, let's keep this going. The ads to children is a bit of an interesting one. So let's do a link there and we'll write, the government could limit the amount of ads directed toward children. Let's move this across so I can see it. I'm going to do a line here for easy access to fast food. And I'm just going to write here, this is a direct cause of unhealthy eating. Now, kitchen gardens could be a link between that and education. And I'll write, the more people know about kitchen gardens, the more likely they are to have one. Now you'll notice as you go, there's lots of word and lots of jumble. Now, if you're doing this by hand, it's a little bit easier. You can draw circles around them or color code them or something of the like, which makes it a little bit easier. Let's keep going. Now the impacts, not only could we talk about impacts in terms of health or sickness, we can also talk about the cost on the government when trying to look after people who are sick, which of course is the cost on the people, since we pay it in tax. Now this one could be another great initiative that the government brings in, something around cheaper, healthy eating. And again, I think something like exercise links really well with education. So we could talk about the impacts of exercise. And also, right, the more education, the more likely people are to exercise. Move that up a little bit so we can see what we're doing. Again, we have another initiative here from the government. We could have something here on the sugar tax. And a good thing about something like a sugar tax is it not only makes healthy food more competitive, it also helps to educate people on their consumption. All right, now that's where I'm going to leave this section of it. Now you could continue to draw connections between each of these areas and write more and more and more. And you'll find the more you write, the more you'll have to put into your essay, which is a really great thing. You'd prefer to be culling things rather than trying to find places for them to go. Now, in the next section, what you want to be doing is figure out which one of these connect to one another. Now, there already is a fairly obvious one in my head, and that's what the government can do in order to make this a little bit easier and better for us. So let's talk about government action first. We've got one here on sugar tax. That's something that they can be doing. Cheaper, healthy food could be an initiative from the government here as well. We could talk about ads to children as well, which is a really good one in terms of getting the government to limit the amount of ads directed towards children. So those three in the yellow now, pretty straightforward ones that the government could be doing. Now, the next thing I can sort of see in here is a general theme around education. So we have an education here, which is the overall point. I'm going to make that a little bit green there. Then you've got your school programs that we could be using. And we also have this idea of kitchen gardens, which could really work quite well when we talk about education around those sorts of things. Now, I did make a link too between education and exercise, so we could put that as green as well. Now let's choose another color. We'll go for red. We can talk about the impacts. Now, impacts can have a relation to easy access to fast food because, of course, easy access causes those impacts to happen. So let's throw that in there too. Now, the accessing support I haven't really used as much as we probably could. And this is going to happen sometimes when you're writing essays. You're not sure whether it's going to fit in your overall essay. That's okay. It's all right to drop it if you don't think it's going to work. But, I might just give that its own little blue color just to say, look, maybe we could add that in somewhere. Now, in order to make this a little bit easier to figure out later, what we do is we write down what the overall topics are that we're going to look at. So this first one, now I was going to do this yellow, but you can't really see it. So let's do it black. Things that the government could do to help to support healthy eating. Okay, and then we can grab our green one. Education to support healthy eating. And that would be my second point. And then our third one here is where we're going to talk about the impacts of unhealthy eating. Now, I haven't decided as yet what order we're going to do this in, and you don't have to as such. This process is just about doing a number of things in order to plan out your essay. So we have this list down the side here where there's no stupid points. You just write everything you can think of about the essay topic. You then sort them out here and then you write all their links down. And then of course in this end part, you come up with the overall points that you're going to make in your essay. Now I've got 3, which is great because generally speaking, essays need about 3 sections. However, if you had 4 or 5 or 6 or even just 2, you can still make that work. It all comes down to your planning. So that's the first section here. We have planned our essay. The next video, we're going to actually write it down. So have a look at that one. We'll see how we go.